What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in for another video. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. We're still doing 3 videos a week right now, so we don't want you to miss out on any of those future videos. Now today we are diving into a topic that was suggested by a viewer on one of the previous videos, so that leads me into this. If any of you guys currently watching this video have any video ideas for future videos, be sure to drop them in the comments, and we keep a running list of video ideas, so we're always looking for more of those, and would love to help you guys catch more bass. You know, that's the goal of this channel, is to help you guys catch more bass and help you guys learn more about fishing in general. So any video ideas that you have, please be sure to drop them in the comments below. But we are talking about bait casting reels and how to set them up. So we've done a couple videos on how to spool the reel, how I like to spool the reel, but we've never really done a video on how I like to set up the reel as far as the braking system and you know, the what is that called? I forget what that one's called. Tension. The tension on the spool tension, and you know, there's a couple different variations of brakes, so this is kind of going to vary based on the reel that you're throwing, but we'll give you a real quick walkthrough, just kind of general how I like to set up my reels and kind of go from there, and you can kind of tweak it as you get more comfortable with the reel and work your way up to less and less breaks, casting further and further, and using your thumb a little bit more. So if you guys are ready, let's jump in and let's talk all about how I set up my bait casting reels. Let's dive into the bait casting reel. First up, you know, obviously we have this guy here. I couldn't just remember the name, but this is your spool tension. So basically what that adjustment is for is how fast the spool will spin based on the weight of the bait that you're throwing. So if you have a real heavy bait, you want to tighten him up a little bit. If you have a real light bait, you want to loosen him up a little bit, so that spool will actually let line out based on the weight of your bait. So if you had a jig tied onto the end of here and you had the rod, you know, the jig reeled up basically to the rod tip, and you press that button, that jig should slowly fall from the rod tip to the floor. If it doesn't fall, you got your tension a little bit too tight. If it falls too fast, you may have it a little too loose, and you may want to tighten it up. So that's a basic, extremely basic way of how I set up my spool tension. Now, let's get over to the brakes. That's where, you know, a lot of people kind of struggle with, or maybe are unfamiliar with how the brakes actually work. So this is a Shimano reel, this is a Bantam reel, so the braking system's a little bit different on every reel or every brand reel that you may use. So like I said, this is a Shimano Bantam. I got it at Fish USA. They got plenty in stock. If you guys are looking, this is one of my favorite reels. It's a great reel that I like to throw. But there will be some sort of door or hatch, something that will open on the opposite of the handle side. And you see this is open, this piece comes out, and these are going to be your little brake tabs. I don't know exactly what any of this is called. So I do not know the science behind any of this, the scientific names for any of this kind of stuff, but I'm just walking you guys through how I like to set them up. So when you purchase a new reel, you know, these tabs may be popped out all over the place, different directions, whatnot. Sometimes it seems like recently when you buy a reel, there'll be 2/3 of them on. So basically when that is on, when that is popped out, so see how those pop in and pop out. So when those are popped out, that is now a brake. That is a centrifugal brake. So as that thing, as the spool spins, that thing is going to pop out and rub against the inside of here and become your brake and kind of slow that spool down as it goes. So the more of these that are popped out, the more brakes that you have, the less brakes you're going to have. So for me, I generally start with 2. When I'm setting up a brand new reel, I like to set up with 2 brakes on, and that you always want them to be directly across from each other. just for, sort of balance purposes. I always think of it as, kind of balancing a tire or something like that. You don't want, if you're just going to do two, you don't want to have just two right here, because that's going to kind of put this whole spool out of balance. So you want to make sure that you have two brakes on directly across from each other. And that's going to be a good starting point. Now, this is going to be different for everybody, so it's kind of hard to give you an exact answer. This is all going to depend on how much pressure you put on your thumb, the baits that you're throwing, are you casting into the wind? This is something that once you get it dialed in for the way you like to cast, it's pretty stationary. You don't have to mess with this a whole lot, but you are going to have to play with it and figure out what works for you to get the best casting distance, and just what pressure you're putting on stopping that spool with your thumb as you're casting it. It's going to vary for everybody, but this is generally how I start. Now, I will make a few casts like this, and if I need a major adjustment, I will open this back up, put maybe one more brake on, two more brakes, see how that goes, and then once you get it to where you feel like you're casting as far as you want, but maybe there's still just a little bit of overrun, that's when there is a additional fine-tuning braking system actually out here on this door. You see this guy right here, he turns. Now, not all reels have this. Some reels have a different variation. You see he goes from a 1 up to a 6. So 6 is going to be the max pressure, 1 is going to be the least amount of pressure. I always like to keep them right in the middle. But this is where you're going to do your fine tuning. So if you're getting just a little bit of extra overrun at like the end of your cast, you can tighten this up a little bit, and generally it seems to help with that. But like I said, this is going to vary from person to person, from reel to reel. It's one of the funniest things about fishing is everybody sets up their reels a little bit different. I could pick up a buddy's rod and reel. I could cast mine 1,000 times and not backlash. Pick up my buddy's that's set up just a little bit different that I'm not used to, and first cast I'm going to backlash it. It happens no matter who you are. You just get used to the way yours are set up, and you pick up something a little bit different, and those backlashes just happen. So you got to figure out what works for you and set up your reels how they work. But this is just a quick general guideline you can walk through and hopefully get your reels casting further, no backlashes, and enjoy more time fishing instead of peeling out line and picking up all those backlashes. So appreciate you guys tuning into this video. Hopefully you guys learned something from this. I'm curious how you guys do it, so make sure to drop in the comments below how you like to set up your reels, if you learned anything, if you do it similar, all that good stuff. Hit that like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you guys next time.